So hi guys, welcome to Crazy Burger. So recently we looked at the Miyoo Mini Plus, which is a really cool sort of mini handheld device. But out the box you can't play such things as C64 and Amiga. To do this you're going to have to update the firmware. And in this video I'm going to have a quick brief look at updating the firmware, and then we're going to play some of the Amiga games and C64 games and see what the actual play is like. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay guys, so to get updated or to update your firmware, I recommend getting a fresh memory card and doing this from scratch. So all you need to do is get your memory card. I guess 32 gig should be plenty for putting these games on. Unless you're putting on loads of PlayStation ROMs, then this size should be fine for everyone. So at the moment, at the time of this video, I would recommend updating to Onion version 4.2. Now it is still a sort of beta release or a beta release, so you're going to have to be aware that sometimes some things might not work as they should. For instance, I actually updated to a previous version and there was all sorts of things not right with it. It wouldn't play a lot of different games because it wasn't really linked up correctly to RetroArch, for example, and it was not finding all the correct cores to play the games. But this latest release seems to work a lot better. And once you've got this on your Miyoo Mini, you can automatically update it through the Wi-Fi on your actual Mini without having to go through this process all over again. So there's a lot of information here. I'll leave this link in the description if you're interested in updating your firmware. Obviously you can't play Amiga and C64 as standard out the box for your Miyoo Mini Plus, but if you do this firmware update, it'll certainly open up a lot of different formats that you can play on your Miyoo Mini Plus handheld. The sort of part you're looking for is this Onion 4.2 beta zip. Now just download that to your PC and then unzip it, and then you can put those details onto your memory card. Now before you do that, on your memory card, when it's plugged in, this is what it's looked like, but you need to make sure it's formatted to FAT32. Now to do that, you need to right click on your memory card and then do format, and then choose this FAT32 blah 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 down here, then choose start, and that will do that for you before you actually do this process. Then when you do that, you get your zip file and drop the file into here. Now it will be blank, it won't look like this, it'll be a blank memory card. You just drop the file that's in the zip file that you downloaded, and then put that memory card into the Miyoo Mini Plus, and then it'll automatically start updating. Obviously make sure it's turned on, then turn it off, not off, then back on again when you're doing this. And then once it's done the update, it'll go through this for a few minutes, take the memory card out, or I think you actually get to choose what emulators you want to choose first, which you can go through that on the actual Miyoo Mini Plus. There is some information here. So what will happen is you'll get some screens and you'll get to choose what emulators you want to put on your Miyoo Mini Plus. What I would do is just maybe choose them all to start with. You can change that on the actual Miyoo Mini, which I'll show you later on. But once you've done that and chosen the emulators you want, take the memory card back out, and then put it into your PC, and you can start dropping the ROMs. Now some things you're definitely going to need is obviously the BIOS files. You need to drop the BIOS files in here. And what you can do is copy them across from your memory card that you got with the Miyoo Mini. Just copy them all and put them into the BIOS files as they were, and you should be fine. You might need to add some others, but I'm pretty sure you should be fine, as all the sort of relevant BIOS files you need were already on the memory card. And the other important thing you need to do is drop your ROMs into the ROMs folder, as you can see here. So I think there's obviously some of the games need to be in specific formats. But I've dropped a few Amiga files in here, and they're all .lha sort of WHD load files. I've dropped in CD32 files in here as well. But if you've only got ADF files, that's probably fine. You can play them as well. But for quickness purposes, it's easier to play these files here. In Commodore 64, obviously I've dropped the details in here. Now I've used this format because they're obviously a lot faster to play. You can use PRG files as well. You can obviously use the tape stuff as well, but I would recommend trying to find either PRG or disk format because they will load a lot quicker. And there's lots of other files there that you can, as you can see, that were not standard on your Miyoo Mini Plus. So you can drop whatever you like. If you're interested in other formats and other sort of game consoles, you can have a look through and drop your files into these folders. Now, there's certainly certain formats probably won't work. There are sites out there that will tell you what sort of formats will work on your Miyoo Mini Plus. And I think for me, I found that the .tzx for Spectrum did not work. It was only really, I think, the TAP and Z80 files that work. So just be wary of what you're actually, what you've got and what you're actually going to install onto the Miyoo Mini Plus. So it might not be the correct format. So certainly be wary of that. So once you've done all that, all you need to do is go back to put the memory card back in your Miyoo Mini Plus, and you are good to go. So what we'll do now is show you the Miyoo Mini Plus in action, and we'll play some Amiga games and C64 and give you some tips as we go on this latest firmware update. Okay guys, so once you've sort of got your stuff sorted out, all your games, ROMs, BIOS, etc., it should look a little bit like this. Now you can change this theme. This is also the PlayStation theme, with the PlayStation Vita music, I think, something like that. Obviously you've got your favourites, recent, all the usual stuff, but what I'll have a look at is the apps in here. There's some interesting stuff. You can obviously mess about with the RetroArch setting. Now this is the option that you'll get if you update your firmware, where you can then update the firmware over the internet. Obviously you need to connect to your Wi-Fi, and then that will do that automatically, and it's so much easier than obviously doing the version we've just done there by doing it on the memory card. Okay guys, so if you want to add or remove systems and apps, you can sort of go into this section here, which should pop up when you put the memory card in. Ask you to actually choose what games and packages you want to add. And that part is not actually working just now, which is kind of weird. So this was working on the previous version, but now it's not, which is a little bit weird. So I can actually go in and tweak that right now. Now that's one of the things about the beta, unfortunately. It obviously has some issues that doesn't always work correctly. Yeah, so we are a little bit limited now. Hopefully when you do the update, it'll ask you which formats you want to add, but otherwise hopefully maybe it's just automatically included. So once you get to this stage, you'll see all the different formats. Now a lot of these might not have any ROMs in them, but what we're going to look at specifically is the Amiga and C64 games. Now you may, if you do add some games, you may need to refresh the ROMs. You just hold down the function button here. If you hold that down, it'll sort of have refresh ROMs, and then just press the red A button to confirm, and then you can update and it'll add the games in that you've added if it's not automatically done so. Anyway guys, without further ado, I'm just going to get stuck in and play some of the games, and I'll talk about it as we go. Okay, first off, I'm going to look at CD32 games first because the performance isn't particularly great. Now you are going to find some games are going to play better than others, but this example you can see that there's quite a lot of slowdown and it doesn't really work great. You can obviously hear it in the music. So it's kind of unplayable. I'm not sure if you put the actual non-CD32 game in there it would work fine. But yeah, this one certainly doesn't work that great. But yeah, it seems okay. But you can tell it's obviously not running at full speed. Anyway, if you want to jump out, you just hold the select button. It's down here, and hold the function button, and then you can obviously get all your different RetroArch options, or you can just close the content and go back to the main screen. I'm not sure this bit is working as it should at the moment. There's obviously some issues on this version still. It should obviously maybe give you the switcher option. I'm not sure if that's working correctly. I'm not going to play every single game here, but I'll play through some. Some games certainly work better than others. And there's still, obviously I've got some of the game art downloaded for this, but the function to actually do this I couldn't find. It seems to have been removed for this beta version as well. Hopefully that'll get added back in again. But let's have a quick bash at Quack. Some games certainly are playing a lot better than others. Obviously the easier to emulate stuff will be absolutely fine, and this one's running brilliantly, but yeah, you're going to have to be wary that some games just won't run great at all. Obviously the CD32 stuff you might want to avoid as well. Anyway, such a cool little game. Let's jump back out of that. Okay, there are a lot of different shortcuts here, but I can't actually remember them all. You can actually make the screen bigger by pressing the start button, or smaller, depending on what you want to see. But we're not going to play every single game. Let's just have a bash at a few of them. Some games don't run particularly great. Obviously if the game is a little bit more complicated, obviously needs a bit of keyboard input, then that's going to be obviously a problem. So ideally you want to be playing games that don't require a heck of a lot of input. But this one seems to be emulating pretty fine. I'm just playing it pretty badly. Yep, could I be any worse? Probably. Okay, let's have a look at one of the games or two that don't actually run too great. More complicated stuff like Leander and Kid Chaos don't really run brilliant. Let's have a look at Kid Chaos. Such a fun game, but it's running pretty poorly. And as you can hear the music, it is just way off. It's maybe just about playable, but yeah, that sound is really off-putting. You'll probably want to turn the sound completely off, but yeah, lucky if we're running at like 50-60% speed here. Such a great game too. It's a pity this doesn't run great. I'm not sure if there's ways we can actually sort of fix it or make some changes in RetroArt, I don't know, but it's certainly not running great on this current setup. It certainly seems to be a little bit hit and miss. I'm not sure why certain games don't run great, but this Rough and Tumble runs really well. Don't see any massive issues with it. Kind of a strange, it seems as if this one would be a little bit more complicated than Kid Chaos, but you know, it seems absolutely fine. So yeah, this one's playable. Such a cool little game. Let's have a bash at Super Frog, see if that actually performs. And again, trying to keep the games to simple games that will probably not require too much keyboard input. Otherwise it's just going to be too complicated. And obviously you're going to have some issues with the emulation. Anything that requires heavy mouse or keyboard input is just probably not going to work very well. Yeah, this one seems to be running quite good. It's kind of interesting to see why some games are not running great and some are. But yeah, this one, I'd say at this obviously early stage of the game, runs absolutely fine. Interesting. Yay. What a cool little game. Certainly takes a little bit getting used to using up to jump, but I guess that was standard on a joystick, wasn't it? Got it. What would I get? Yeah, that will do nicely. What a great game. Hard as nails though, but yeah, great game. The original run and gun classic. Yeah, I love this game. Superb. I did actually first play the C64 version as well though. That was obviously an excellent version, but yeah, probably this is the best one I would say. Oh, what a great game. Yeah guys, let's move on to Commodore 64 now. I think the emulation will obviously work a lot better for that. I don't see any massive problems, but we'll play through a couple of games before we end the video. Okay, moving on to Commodore 64. I've got a few games in here that we'll just run through quickly. I don't have too many. Some are actually more recent homebrew games, but you can actually download for free on itch.io, like Lester, Millie, Tenebra, Jungle.cosmoth, Digilloy, they're all like free to download games you can find on itch.io, and I'd recommend all of them. They are absolutely brilliant games. It's nice to see so many modern games, or modern retro games getting released still on the C64. Yeah, let's play some of these, see what the emulation is like. I would guess that most of these should run absolutely fine. I don't see any problems. Obviously the emulation might run a little bit slower depending on what format you've got it in. I have to say, I thought this was a great version. Not saying it's the best version, but I thought it was a great version of this. Ah dear. Let's go back to the start when you're so close. If you've never played this game, this is Millie and Molly. It's a kind of a single screen puzzle game, which I think is absolutely brilliant. Starts off pretty easy, but the later levels are ferociously difficult. It will certainly test your brain power to the max. You're basically trying to clear the sort of, I think it's teddy bears on this level, but it does change when you get to different stages. And further on to like different types of things you need to clear. And you can switch between characters. You can obviously rewind as well. If you hold down the fire button, it will rewind if you make a mistake, and that becomes very important in later levels. But well, thoroughly recommend it to anyone. The initial levels certainly are like training tutorials basically, and showing you the basics of the game. But I guess once you sort of hit maybe 10, 11, 12, things get a little bit trickier. But yeah, once you get to level 60, 70, you'll be at that for weeks. And one of the good things about this, that it does save your progress automatically. You don't really need to save state, but it's there if you need to. But the save, every game that you play should automatically remember the state, and you can just jump straight back into the games that you play, which is brilliant. Let's have a look at Lester. This is a recent game released on itch.io, and this one is fantastic. This is kind of like a Metroidvania style game. It's got nice colourful graphics, tricky gameplay, but yeah, it looks fantastic for a Commodore 64 game. Great soundtrack as well going on. Yeah, and I'd recommend this to anyone. This game is free to download. You can obviously donate anything to the creator as well if you want to, but it's free if you want to download it. It's brilliant. Yeah, make sure you collect the coins, because you can use them in the stores to upgrade. Oh, it's too dark in here at the moment. I can't do that. So you can't destroy that thing. And you got an important function there, whatever that was. But yeah guys, totally recommend it, absolutely brilliant. Okay guys, so that is our quick look at Commodore 64 and Amiga games running on the Miyoo Mini. Now Commodore 64 games, they'll be absolutely fine. I don't see any massive issues. With Amiga you can clearly see some games work great, some don't, so it's a little bit hit and miss. So you need to be aware of that when you're doing it. But yeah, if you love Commodore 64 games, Amiga, then it's certainly worth a look, but you will have to upgrade your firmware to be able to play these. But just be aware, sometimes the updates are still in beta form and you will have some issues, which I've obviously shown on this video as well. There's still some things not quite right. But yeah, I love it. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll catch you again in the next one. Bye for now. Ah.